I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians upon the land in which I live, the Jabal and Jarawar people. I would like to pay respect to the elders past, present and future. I'd like to acknowledge any elders who are viewing my digital story. I am a descendant of Irish and English, which landed in Brisbane on December 15, 1884. As I walk out my front door each morning and leave for work, I am surrounded by urban development in all directions. On my daily drive to work, I pass what was once farmland that is now being developed into housing estates along the development of the new Toowoomba Range crossing. While driving to work, I also pass through the industrial estate, more urban developments and schools. It saddens me to say that at no point during my daily routine from home to work do I see any evidence of Indigenous people. As for the early childhood industry, I cannot say with confidence that the Indigenous culture has been integrated into my daily routine or the routine of the service that I work with great success. With the settlement of Toowoomba over the decades, the Indigenous sacred sites and hunting grounds have been slowly taken and used for urban and industrial development. Highways have taken over farmland. As I walk and drive around my community, it was hard to notice any Indigenous influence in my community unless you were actively looking for it. Through my journey to seek some Indigenous spaces or even influences, it saddens me to say that there is an abundance of mainstream spaces that mainly acknowledges ethnic Australians that at best touches our cultural influences. Before I started this course, I felt that I had a fair understanding of the Indigenous people within my community that I was working with. However, when I first attended this subject 5 years ago, at the time, I was working in the local community as a family support worker. It took me a good few years of demonstrating my skills and understanding of the Indigenous community in which I lived. While I was working with an Indigenous elder, I was eventually accepted and was addressed by others in the Indigenous community as Auntie Tracie. Reflecting back, now I realise how wrong and naive I could have been. After stepping out of being a family support worker and back into the long daycare industry, I was surprised once again on how little I truly knew about the local Indigenous culture in my area. Once I started learning the course content, I realised how uninformed and uneducated I was concerning the history of our first Australian people, and how first Australian archetypes, first Australian stereotypes and first Australian diversity have impacted our traditional owners of our country, and that it still has an impact on them 200 years after colonisation. Depending on where you live in Toowoomba and the community dynamic, it is very possible for the Indigenous culture and community to be very evident and visible. There is a high number of Indigenous people living in this area. Looking back over my journey and reflecting on how the Indigenous community are visible and valued in my community, it is with a sad heart that I say in my immediate neighbourhood, as I walk out my front door each day, it is very evident that the answer is no. But through my thirst for knowledge and to seek clarity and confirmation, I feel that in Toowoomba, Queensland, as a whole, there is some active acknowledgement and respect for Indigenous people.